LinkedIn Ads Insider, episode number 1. It's a new channel. People aren't familiar with us yet. So shall we start with some quick introductions?
Yeah, sure. Shall I go first?
Do it.
Cool. So I'm Mark Woodland. I'm the CEO of Winbox. I've worked in B2B marketing for the past 15 years. For the past 3 or 4 years, been pretty much solely focused on LinkedIn and LinkedIn ads. So I've gone really deep into the channel, spent my all day, every day in Campaign Manager. And because of that, we know a lot about the channel. We know what works and what doesn't work. We've seen all sorts of experiments across our clients. So this podcast is and this show is to basically share some of those lessons, share some of those learnings, and to see whether people can get more from LinkedIn ads.
Perfect. And I am George, as you know, your business partner, co-founder and creative director of Winbox. And yeah, as you say, the goal is just to share what we know about LinkedIn ads, how we're using it with our clients, what people are getting right, what people are getting wrong, and things they might not have thought about. We've got a few things to discuss. We want to talk about, first off, in a bit more detail, what LinkedIn Ads Insider is all about and what we want to do. And then some of the things that we see working really well right now, specific things we're doing with our clients, like thought leader ads, video content, UGC, aesthetics, and we'll dive into how to approach those things and how to get the most out of them. Anything else to add to that?
No, that's it really. Basically, we're going to have a theme for each one of these episodes, pick a certain area of LinkedIn. And for this first one, we thought it'd be good to talk about what's working right now on the channel. What are the different tactics or different strategies that people should be adopting right now to make sure that they're getting the most from the channel. Obviously, we've got the new year coming up as well. So for their planning for 2026, what are the things that you should really be doing on LinkedIn? Nice.
And we got a couple of new features as well. This is more you're like your area of expertise. I'm more the creative person. You're more the kind of like paid media management and strategy guy. But I think it's personalisation. Is that right in LinkedIn ads?
Yeah, that's it. So LinkedIn are rolling out new features all of the time. Some are better than others. But this latest one actually does seem really good. It's kind of snuck under the radar. They haven't advertised it much, but it's called Personalisation ads. And it basically means that in the body copy of the ads, now you can add merge tags or personalization tags. So you can actually write into the ad copy, hi first name, or mention their job title or mention their company name, just to make it feel a bit more personalized as they are going through the feed. I'm excited about it. I think it'd be really good. Like we know with email marketing, they have to be personalized to a certain degree. If you get an email that isn't hi first name, it does kind of put you off almost immediately because you know it's just going to be a sales pitch or it's just going to be marketing. Whereas at least if it is personalized, it feels a bit more one-to-one and comes across a bit better. So LinkedIn are obviously trying to replicate that with the ads as well, which I'm quite excited to try out. I've heard of a few people who kind of operate in our circles and they've tried out the beta and they've done tests between non-personalized ads and personalized ads, and actually they are seeing a higher CTR. Nice. So that's good. I think all of us have to run our own tests and it won't work in every instant. But from the creative standpoint, what do you think about it?
I think, as you say, it's just another thing to use. It's another thing in the toolbox. It won't be needed every time, but you can never have too many tricks up your sleeve, and this is just another one. So we'll be covering that like later on in the show in more detail. So if you're listening now and you're thinking this sounds really interesting, like do stick around. First off, should we talk about why we started the show?
Yeah.
And like what we're hoping to share and get out of doing this?
Yeah, sure. So we started the show because we're deep into LinkedIn ads. So we know LinkedIn ads really well. And from going deep into LinkedIn ads over the last few years, what we have seen is that LinkedIn poses a big opportunity for businesses because it's a huge network. It's over 1 billion members. It's where senior decision makers hang out. There's lots of different ad formats and targeting options that you can use. So it's a big opportunity. But unfortunately, most brands are getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And we know this because we audit a lot of accounts. And probably 90% of the time, I would say, that's no exaggeration, you go into that audit and you can see that they've spent a lot of money, but in the first 5-10 minutes, you can see that a lot of that budget has unfortunately been wasted. And that's down to things like incorrect placement. So what LinkedIn has, which I think the other ad platforms have as well, is these default settings that don't necessarily work in favor of the advertiser.
Yeah.
So from a placement perspective, that's the LinkedIn Audience Network. So that's basically a list of third-party publishers where LinkedIn can share your ads rather than on LinkedIn itself. And it's enabled by default. If you don't know about it, it can basically eat up all of your budget without you knowing. And that means that all of your budget, all of your ads being shown off of LinkedIn and not actually in the feed.
Yeah.
And we find that the quality of the traffic and the conversions and the clicks that you get from the LinkedIn Audience Network isn't always of the best quality.
Yeah.
So it's these little kind of obstacles that people come across on LinkedIn if you don't know the channel really well that can really trip you up.
Yeah.
I mean, that you're spending a lot of money, you're not getting a return. And unfortunately, then what happens is you come to the conclusion that actually LinkedIn ads as a channel isn't right for us, or we can't get it to work for us. So you stop applying your budget there. When the reality is, as we said, it's a huge opportunity for businesses. It's a great channel if you get it right. So we just want to create content like this to help educate people on how to do it the right way, how to maximize your presence and your return from the channel so that they can make the most of the opportunity.
Definitely. Yeah, I think, obviously, as you say, we do LinkedIn all day, every day, so we're biased. But for my money, it's the most misunderstood, misused channel. It's also the biggest opportunity. And the opportunity is massive if you get it right. It's the world's biggest professional social network. For basically every brand you can think of, your customers are going to be on there at least weekly, more likely in some cases daily. Your competitors are all going to be on there. Every company is on LinkedIn in some shape or form on a regular basis. Definitely decision makers are on there. Like LinkedIn usage kind of correlates with seniority. So the more senior you are, the more important you are, the more decision-making power you have, the more you're going to be on LinkedIn. And yet, as we often talk about with clients in our sales process, no one really owns LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is not anyone's job. You look at most marketing teams, you've got your SEO person, your content person, your PPC person. There's never a LinkedIn person. And so it just slips through the cracks, which means that people don't know how to use it, don't really know what it's for, have a go in a kind of small sense. And when it doesn't deliver the results they were expecting, they kind of give up or they just deprioritize it, which I just think is crazy. I think, obviously I am biased, but I think it should be like the cornerstone of your go-to-market in 2025 and 2026. It should be at the heart, if you're a B2B brand, of how you're going to market, because it can do things that no other channel can do. And obviously, as kind of blogs and SEO becomes less effective in terms of traffic, it's where people are going more and more. I mean, there are two places people go for answers, at least in my circle these days. It's ChatGPT and LinkedIn. That's like the channels that are actually influencing them. And so I guess my goal in doing this is to help people make the most of the opportunity that we see. And certainly, you and I, we're pretty heavy LinkedIn users, not just for our clients, but for our own business. And it's our number one source of deals. It's been transformative for us. Yes, we've had to put a fair bit of time into making that happen. But we've seen it work for ourselves, for our clients. And I guess it's just about sharing with people how we're doing that and trying to encourage people to take the platform seriously and treat it as a priority channel.
Yeah, I always think it's such a shame when you speak to advertisers and you say, okay, yeah, we do a lot in LinkedIn and a lot of LinkedIn ads. And they say, oh yeah, we tried that and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you just know that actually, if you took a look at their account, if you looked through what they were doing, you can point out 4 or 5 different reasons as to why it didn't work.
Yeah.
And actually, if they just tweak those things, not massively, just small tweaks, just knowing how to operate on the channel, that actually it would work for them.
Yeah.
And it could be, as you said, that kind of cornerstone of their marketing that can really transform the number of deals, number of opportunities that is brought into the business consistently through LinkedIn and through marketing. And it's because of that uniqueness as a channel, as you mentioned, in terms of it can do things that other channels can't do.
Definitely.
In terms of, I think the main thing is just the precision of its targeting. The fact that everyone keeps their LinkedIn profile up to date.
Yeah.
When you get a new job, almost the first thing that you do is you update your LinkedIn. So you get the congratulations from your network and all your friends. They know what you're up to now and they know where you're at. And you get that. It used to be the cupcake, and it's something a bit more funky now. I think it's implemented as a post. So the data is really accurate, and you could target people by their job title, by the company they work at, the seniority level, the size of that company, even the revenue of that company, right the way down to their skills and their interests. And you just can't do that on Meta. You can't do that on Google. It's really precise in that respect. And also it's where senior decision makers do hang out. Most of the user base on LinkedIn in terms of people that are active on the channel are senior decision makers. And that's who we as marketers want to be appealing to, want to be talking to, because we know that when they have a need for then your solution within their company, it's them who are going to be the most influential in that buying decision.
Yeah. I mean, just thinking about what you said there about kind of people trying LinkedIn, we exhibited at an event called DMWF not so long ago. We had so many, we had a big banner on our stand, like Europe's largest LinkedIn ads agency. And people would see it and they would shoot over to the stand. I mean, this happened to me multiple times, to tell me about the fact that they tried LinkedIn ads and it didn't work, to almost get it off their chest. And as you say, you dig in to what they did when they said they tried LinkedIn ads, and it would be a handful of lead gen forms live for 4 to 6 weeks with a total spend of 300 quid. And it didn't work. Obviously, it didn't work. That's not how the channel works.
Yeah.
But I think there's this misunderstanding, I suppose, of what it's for, how to use it, how to approach a trial like that, which maybe we can talk about in one episode because I think it's really interesting, and how to evaluate success. I think people see it as a bit like PPC. Sometimes, you flick a switch and out pop the leads. And it's not that at all. And I think, a format like this, a show like this, we can add a lot of value and hopefully save a lot of people a lot of money. Because if we can just reduce that wasted spend and allocate it towards things which are going to be more profitable in the long term and more valuable for those companies, that can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Should we dive into it then? The theme for this first episode?
Let's do it.
Cool. So for this first one, we wanted to talk about what's working on the channel right now. So what have you seen to be the top performing tactic or strategy on the channel right now?
Thought leader ads.
Absolutely.
It was always going to be thought leader ads because everyone's talking about them because they work really well.
And for what people who don't know what thought leader ads are, just define them for us.
So in the past, if you were running LinkedIn ads, you had to run them from your brand account. So for us, that would be from the Winbox account. And that is typically how social networks operate, right? You think about Meta, you think about TikTok, it's all from the brand accounts. And LinkedIn, I don't know whether they realized it when they did it, how seismic this change was going to be, but they made it possible to put ad spend behind individuals' posts. And that's basically what we mean when we say a thought leader ad. So that rather than running an ad from the Winbox account, you're going to get Mark to post something and you're going to put, £1,000 a month or something behind his posts. And it's an extremely effective ad format. And the reason it's so good and the reason why LinkedIn advertisers need to take it really seriously is because nobody in their right mind goes on social media to hang out with brands. Normal people don't do that. Do you know what I mean? Like some people might like and comment on what a brand does, but most people want to hang out with other people. That's not to say that you should never run ads from your brand account. Obviously you should. But if you do, you're at a disadvantage compared with running it from an individual's account because there's just something about human nature. We're more interested in people than we are in brands. And we can get onto the kind of optimal approach, but I'll kind of finish and hand back over to you by saying that you've heard me say this to loads of different people recently. If you're not running this ad format, it's like going into a boxing ring with one hand behind your back. These days, if all your competitors are putting their people front and center and using those individual accounts as the kind of backbone of their campaign, as the default, and you are not, and you're either not running these ads or not taking them seriously and just doing a little scattering here and there, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to cut through and compete.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And it makes sense if you think about, you touched upon it there, but why people go on LinkedIn. They don't go on LinkedIn to shop. They're not there to look around different brands or to buy anything. They are there ultimately to engage with people.
Yeah.
And they're there to learn from industry influencers. They're there to network with people. Sometimes they're there to look for a job, but they're definitely not there, as you say, to engage with brands. So it makes sense that the best performing ad format actually comes from an individual and comes from a personal profile. But I think that you almost can't approach them like a typical ad.
Yeah.
You can't approach it as almost like a billboard or an ad you want to put out there just to get the message out there. What I think you want to use them for is to approach them as a long-term trust builder.
Yes.
Because that's what they're really good for. What you do is you get individuals within your company to post from their personal profile. This could be ideally the CEO of the company is regularly posting and active on LinkedIn. We know there's a lot of benefits to that. But what they're doing is they're putting out their expertise into the world. And then that is showcasing to your audience the expertise you have within your business. And what that does really well is it builds up trust. And we know in B2B that trust is the number one currency because every purchase in B2B is complex. Often it requires multiple stakeholders, requires big budgets, but also it's someone's neck on the line. If they introduce a piece of software into your company or a different solution into your company, if that doesn't go well, then it's going to reflect on you as an individual within that company. And usually with new purchases in B2B, there's a lot of change management that's involved with that. So before you introduce a brand into your company, you really need to know that you can trust them.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is to showcase your people.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a really interesting angle. And I think you're right. I think that like one of the ultimate goals of your LinkedIn ads strategy, full stop, should be building trust.
Yeah.
And not just driving leads. Because ultimately the kind of tactics that can be really good for lead gen often erode trust.
Yeah.
You know, like really low quality gated content that you download and you just think, why have I just done this? I now dislike this brand. Yeah, I think thought leader ads as well. There is just something about those companies where you see Cognizant, right? Really good example of this. Dream Data, really good example of this. Chili Piper, really good example of this. When you look in their ad library and you look at their LinkedIn activity, it feels less like a brand, like a single kind of monolithic entity, and more like a cast of really passionate people who are all just documenting what they're doing. And you know what they're doing looks actually like a really good product that you should probably pay attention to and maybe buy. It's just so much more compelling and there's so many more sort of storytelling opportunities. So that's the kind of evangelizing for thought leader ads bit. It's worth talking about like some of the challenges.
Yeah.
I think, because there are unique challenges. And certainly from our perspective as an agency, it's been quite interesting working with clients on doing this, because I think that the difference between whether you're an in-house marketer or you're an agency, making ads for a brand that's going out on the brand account is you kind of don't need to ask for anyone else's involvement. The creative team can just make the ads and make them really good, and the paid media team can get them live and it's done. Whereas once you're doing thought leader ads, there's a lot more coordination, often I think a lot more than people realize, because you have to go out and find these people. Who wants to be involved? A lot of people won't. So you need to find people who are willing to put themselves out there, and the kind of people who, there is a type of person who just kind of enjoys creating content and sharing it. And I think that's actually a really important factor in choosing people. You can't make people do something they really don't want to do and really don't care about for very long. It will just be an uphill struggle. So finding people who are passionate enough about what they're doing to want to create some content and put their face to it, which is another thing. A lot of people, understandably, they get very anxious when they feel like they're in the spotlight. And again, if the people that you're trying to kind of bring into your thought leader strategy are like that, it's going to be a real uphill struggle.
Yeah.
I think you do want to find people who slightly thrive off of, you know, lacking for a better word, like the attention.
Yeah. I think it's easy to overlook that actually putting something out on someone's personal profile could be a big hurdle for them.
Yes.
Because they're worried about who's going to see it, what they're going to think about it. You can overthink these things.
Yeah.
So it can be a hurdle for them, especially if you're putting budget behind it. So when you do that, there's going to be increased reach and there's going to be a lot more people seeing it. It can feel quite vulnerable. So I think that it's easy to overlook that. I do think though that nowadays CEOs of companies almost have like a responsibility to get involved in the marketing.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's because what we've seen over the years, and especially more recently, there's kind of a boom in this space.
Yeah.
The founder-led marketing or CEO-led marketing is really working. People want to hear from the leaders of these organizations. They want to hear their perspective. They want to hear their views. They want to see their expertise. And they also want to buy into them and who they are before they purchase. So there's so much evidence now to show that this is an effective strategy to have your CEO front and center and creating content, kind of being open for people to see.
Yeah.
And with thought leader ads, now we have the ability to boost those posts and boost that content to your ideal ICP consistently. So I think that often CEOs are reluctant to get involved in these sort of tactics. They don't want to be active on LinkedIn. They're busy with other stuff, understandably. They've got urgent tasks going on all the time.
Yeah.
But almost, I think now, to be fair to marketing and for marketing to be able to do their best job, they have to get involved.
Yeah.
And marketing can help with this. So where marketing should get involved should be working with them to say, okay, here's the strategy. Here's who we're trying to appeal to with these posts. Here's who we want to talk to. Here are the content pillars that we want to talk about. Here's how we want to share them with the different formats. You can help them to produce it, whether that's through videos, podcasts, or just text posts, images, infographic, whatever it might be. I mean, ideally a mix of all the above, but actually help them to produce the content, put their kind of personalized tone on it, and then get it out there consistently. Because if you can do that, if you have, you spoke about if you're not doing thought leader ads, you're at a disadvantage with your ad strategy. At the moment, because a lot of people aren't doing it, if you have a CEO who is active on LinkedIn, and you can use those posts for thought leader ads, you're at a big advantage at the moment because not enough people are doing it. I think that will change over time. I think we'll see over the next 6 to 12 months, it being more commonplace for CEOs to be very active and front and center of brands, B2B brands marketing. But right now, it's just not the case.
You have to feel sorry for CEOs a bit, don't you? It's like, as if they didn't have enough on their plate. Now they have to essentially become a kind of content creator, an influencer. But you are right. The way that marketing teams can help with that is to basically try and do as much as possible for them in terms of the creation of the content. It's worth noting that some CEOs will be more engaged than others. And we were having a conversation with a client last week and they were saying they really want to get the CEO of their company, quite a large company based in the States, onboarded onto this type of approach, but they know that he's really busy. And while he says he might be up for it, realistically, they don't know if that's going to happen. And the principle that I shared with them, which I think is a sensible one, is basically, if the CEO's really bought into doing this and they're going to be willing to log in multiple times a week, respond to people who are interacting with them, connect with relevant people, comment on other people's content, just be a member of the community that they're trying to sell to, which is ultimately how to think about B2B social media marketing. If they're up for doing that, think of it as an organic play with some paid amplification. If they're not, treat it as a paid media play. But don't kid yourself into trying to, you don't want to be there WhatsApping your CEO saying, do you reckon you could log into LinkedIn this morning and comment on a few posts? Because if they don't want to do that, if they're not just doing that themselves, you're not going to pester them into doing it. And you can treat it as a paid media play and still get some results. I think it's probably less compelling than the real deal, like the way that we do it, which is you are both taking the organic stuff seriously while amplifying the best bits with paid media. That's the ideal. But if you can't do that bit, I'd say just treat it as a paid thing. Maybe get them to post once a week, put spend behind it, and see it as a layer in your ad strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because you can see thought leader ads as one tactic or one strategy.
Yeah.
But actually within them, you could have multiple strategies.
Totally.
And multiple tactics. So you've got one strategy, which is, like you said, and this is often the ideal. You've got a CEO who's very active on LinkedIn. They're posting regularly. So what you do is you pick the top performers, the ones that get the most traction organically, and you boost them as thought leader ads. So they're seen by more people and they're seen by your ICP. Or you have a CEO who's not going to do that and it's not working organically. So you might then create 3 or 4 different posts throughout the month that deliver the right message and demonstrate that expertise or document something that you're up to. Then you have that as your paid media play. And then you have something else entirely, which is that maybe it's not the CEO, it's the other people within your organization.
Yeah.
And it's the head of product talking about new features, or it's your sales talking about common objections and why they should overcome them.
Yeah.
It's the sales team talking about the customer success team talking about frequently asked questions, whatever it might be. But you can utilize the expertise then across your business to show your audience who are the multiple people within that company who you will be working with and who all contribute to the solution. And then you're building up that trust in the wider company. Yeah. And then that can help with get you into the sales process.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm really bullish about that way of doing it. I think there's kind of like, like with most things, there's the okay, good and great version of this. And okay is you're just doing a couple of thought leader ads here and there in the mix with your branded ads. And good is a more considered, thought through strategy around 1 or 2 people. It could be your CEO or someone else. Great is a cast of characters. You have gone out, as you say, and you've selected the right people from the different parts of your business: product, sales, customer success, marketing, ops. And they are all documenting and sharing what the company is doing. And I think this is really interesting from a kind of branding perspective, interesting from an operational perspective, because making that happen is going to need to be someone's full-time job to coordinate all of that activity. But I think it's really interesting just in terms of like the culture, which is, I think where you want to be, and this is really hard, but where you want to be is culturally, we are not a closed book. We are an open book. We share and document what we're doing with the world, because what we're doing is important and interesting and cool.
Yeah.
And it might help people decide to buy from us over someone else. So I think that's the kind of the best version of this. I honestly don't think there's that many companies that are doing this. As I said, I think Cognism, Dream Data and Chili Piper are pretty close to this. And I always follow those guys and watch what they're doing. So I think they're the best at it. But it's a mindset. Do you know what I mean? I'm still trying to develop that mindset in terms of what we do with Winbox, which is just to always be thinking about, what did I do today? Yeah. And where's the content in that? Where's the story in that? Where's the angle or the insight? And it's a kind of muscle that you have to build, I think.
Yeah, and also what we're talking about so far is boost and post from your own internal creators or your own employees. There's a whole nother side to this as well, which is publishing third parties posts.
Definitely.
People who are talking about your brand and saying good things about it, testimonials, or it might be that you're hosting an event and it's the speaker at the event, and actually then boosting their posts to expose them to your audience and pass on that kind of trust and those brand affiliations with your own brand.
Yeah.
And I noticed in an account the other day, just on Friday actually, and a new tab in beta called Partnerships. And basically what that is that you click on the Partnerships tab and it's just a list of all of the LinkedIn posts that have happened recently that have mentioned your brand name.
Interesting.
I seen it in one of our clients' account, and actually we noticed a couple of individuals posting about our client that we didn't even know about. And we seen those posts and we were like, okay, they are perfect for thought leader ads. That's a perfect third-party endorsement that just happens organically. So it comes across really genuine because it is really genuine.
Yeah.
And actually we can reach out to that individual then and say, this post is brilliant. Can we boost this post as part of our ads campaign and our thought leader campaign? And then that third-party promotion is in B2B is kind of, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the holy grail.
Yeah.
I think in terms of social proof, is a person just love the product, so much they had to post it, and then you go and put some spend behind it and it gets seen by like 20,000 people. Excellent.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know you can do that.
Yeah,
people
they
think
don't.
You could just boost your employee post, and originally on thought leader ads, that's all you could do.
Yeah.
But then they introduced, I think probably about a year ago now, but the ability to boost posts from outside your organization. It's really powerful. The final thing I would say about thought leader ads is that you do need volume. I think that when it comes to brand ads, people expect to see the same brand ad over and over in their feed. We're kind of used to that because, I mean, growing up, we'll see the same TV advert on the TV all of the time.
Yeah.
So we're kind of used to that repetition, but people don't want to see the same personal profile post over and over. They're less forgiving of that. So I think you want to be refreshing your thought leader ads at least every 30 days.
Yeah.
And the way that I do this is I will go into our campaign manager account and I'll have a look at the engagement rate. And actually, if the engagement rate is quite low, that's maybe not a great performer. So I would probably look to replace that ad. Or if I see that over time an engagement rate has dropped off, then I would look to replace that ad. But unfortunately, even if you do have a high engagement rate on an ad, on a thought leader ad, but it's been going for a while, you might want to look to refresh that just so that you are showing new messages, new material to further build up that authority and that trust in your brand and your thought leaders.
Nice. Yeah, that's a thing that people often forget to do, which is to like look at these and how they're tailing off, because you do see the performance drop quite sharply after a few weeks. So the next one that we wanted to talk about was video, which is obviously not a new thing in the same way as thought leader ads are. But it's super important, and it's only getting more important. I mean, we have a pretty good relationship with LinkedIn. We talk to them a lot. And they're always telling us, like, video is the future. That's what they're prioritizing. They're seeing themselves going forward as a video first platform in terms of content. And yet, I don't think there's many brands that are thinking strategically about video and creating a video strategy for LinkedIn or social in general. So maybe you can start off just by talking about LinkedIn's pivot to video and what it means for brands.
Yeah. So LinkedIn have been pushing video hard now for a long time. They've been really beating this drum. And that's because they see higher engagement rates with video, and they're just seeing how their users are engaging with video on the platform and seeing that that's the way to go. Also, I guess, following other platforms that are having a lot of success with video. So it kind of makes sense. And I was with LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago at their Dublin HQ. It was a few days where agencies got in the room and they were talking us through the latest trends and latest best practice. And they had a whole section on video. And they did this really interesting study where they audited 13,000 different B2B video ads. And it's the largest video ad analysis that's ever been done, apparently.
Wow.
And so they audited all of them to try and find out what the videos that are resonating best on the platform. And one type of video that's resonating best is cinematic video.
Yeah.
And this is the type that actually isn't going to be accessible to most brands that are just not going to have the budgets. So an example of this is you might have seen the Salesforce videos doing the rounds on LinkedIn, where you've got Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson doing these really cool, cinematic, funny videos.
Yeah.
And they work brilliantly because it's almost doesn't seem like an ad. It seems like cinema and it seems fun. It's like a blockbuster. So we buy into that and we engage that. But I don't know about you, but at Winbox, we don't have the budget for Matthew McConaughey. It'd be great if he does do an ad for us. But
one day.
One day, but it's not going to happen. And most brands don't. So for a lot of people, yes, we know that works, but it's not going to be accessible.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. The other video ad format that works best is personal-based stories, narratives, which is basically someone within your organization, so a thought leader, like we talked about before, talking to camera and just sharing some knowledge, some advice, some expertise, some product-related information, telling a story about your product, but just basically showing who they are and talking to camera and talking about your product. And that is actually accessible to every brand, really.
Totally.
They should have one person or multiple people within their company who will be happy to do that and are comfortable on camera, or they can learn to be. Everyone has a smartphone, and you can just get your iPhone, set it up so it's nice and still, and just shoot a video that way. The video quality and even the sound quality is often really good that way.
Yep.
Maybe some slight editing on there, adding some captions, but it doesn't need to be much because you want it to look raw and look genuine. That tends to be what works best. So that's an ad format that works best on LinkedIn alongside the cinematic ads, but that is an ad format that is a video ad format that is accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And what's quite interesting on this as well is for one of our clients, their best performing ad by far, and we spent ages crafting loads of beautiful videos, beautiful images for them for the ads. The best performing ad for them so far is a really shaky video of Mark Ritson doing a talk, name dropping that client and saying how good they were.
Yeah.
And that outperforms everything else that they do. And it's like 5 seconds, 10 seconds or whatever. It's on a shaky iPhone recording with a little bit of overlay, but it works perfectly because it's raw, it's authentic, it's genuine. It looks natural in the feed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key point that we want to get across, is that it's got to look natural.
Yeah, it looks like it's from an actual person, not from a brand. So I actually edited and captioned that one. And I remember the client saying, can we tidy it up? Can we stabilize the footage and stuff like that to try and make it look good? And I said, definitely don't do that. Like the only chance like a piece of footage has, if it's kind of like very lo-fi like that one, is that you embrace how it looks and the fact that it's a bit imperfect. And I think it performs much better because of that. And I didn't really even do like a proper caption. I kind of captioned it in the way that you would like an Instagram reel with like some like laughing face emojis. I think I just said, Ritson said what? With a couple of laughing face emojis. So it just felt real and organic, like something a person would put out there to friends. Yeah, the breakdown in video performance is super funny. I think there's this, as you put it, there is the cinematic stuff, which is almost like TV ad level production. That's great if you've got those kind of budgets, right? And I think that especially if you can have like celebrities in there, it's going to perform really well just because people are familiar with those faces and they're going to stop and watch. I think once you get below that, there is this kind of weird principle at play, which is almost the more that you try and spend on it, sometimes the worse the performance gets.
Yeah.
And there is this trap, I think, which is you are not spending enough money to make something which is absolutely awesome and has Matthew McConaughey in it, or is just like super entertaining and well shot and really creative. You're kind of in the 10 to 20K range where you're just doing a kind of glossy shoot somewhere that looks generically professional. And you have people on camera who are clearly trying to remember some kind of script. And it all feels wildly inauthentic and very B2B circa 2010. And that is like the worst type of video content in the feed.
Yeah.
Because it just screams like this is super boring B2B marketing.
Yeah.
And should be ignored and scrolled past. I think you're totally right. The stuff that, you know, we see work really well for our clients, and certainly that I see working well for us and most warm to when I see it on the channel, it's people with a phone or on their laptop. You know, it feels like user-generated content that anyone could create. The key thing is A, that it feels kind of real and authentic, and B, that they're talking about stuff that like actually matters to the audience. And I think that like it's really easy with video content to fixate on the lighting and the cameras and the studio and all of that stuff. And then when you actually get down to it, there is no content in the content.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing of substance being said. It's just like some members of a senior leadership team just kind of waffling.
Yeah.
And it should be like the other way around. Like don't fixate on the production values, fixate on the value that you're going to add, or like the why. Like why should somebody watch past the first 3 seconds? I think there's another aspect as well, which is like the hook. A mistake that I see people make all the time, and definitely like, you know, clients will send us videos being like, will this work as a video ad? And it will open with about 5 seconds of nothing.
Yeah.
You know, 5 seconds of just a slow fade from black to another color with a logo over it. It's like the worst hook you can imagine. Whereas what you want is it just to jump straight into the most interesting 2 or 3 seconds of that video, and then do like a big screen wipe and then go back to the start.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm doing hooks at the moment. You know, I was working on one for a client the other day, and just opened with, you know, a close-up shot of the person I'd interviewed, again, just, with a mic like this in front of the laptop, and it just says, that's a saving of £23,000 a year. And then it goes, poof, and then you cut back to the start of the interview clip. It's only 45 seconds long or something like that. But that's how to kind of think about the hook, is like hit them with the most impactful thing. Big savings are always impactful. People care about saving money, and then go back to the start of the clip. And that works a lot better.
Yeah, that's a really important point, because if you think about the average dwell time on the ad is 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
So if that first 2.5 seconds is just the logo, people know it's an ad and it's marketing. I'm just going to scroll on by, which is really easy to do when people are just scrolling on their mobile. And I think it kind of talks to as well what works best to an overall concept in the ads that we talk a lot about, which is that what tends to work best is ads that don't look like ads.
Definitely.
They look native in the feed. And I think that if you are sharing best practice or you're sharing your thought leadership, that doesn't come across as an ad. Like, I'm going to get something from watching this. It's going to be valuable.
Yeah.
So that's beneficial. So I think it's important to think about that when you are creating these videos as well and creating all of your ads for LinkedIn.
Definitely.
What was interesting about that study as well is that they found that the least performing video ads, the kind of worst performing, were the style where people might have almost like a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
And they kind of try and animate that together into an ad. But again, that looks like an ad. It just looks like marketing. So people will see that in the feed and go, okay, now I'm just going to scroll on by this. I don't want to be pitched. I don't want to see this. That's not why I'm here. And also it just looks not low production in terms of like raw, but it just looks like low effort and it doesn't look that exciting. So that's a format that really doesn't work very well either.
I'd add to that. We're now just dunking on different types of video ads, but I'm going to keep it going. I'd add to that like the animated explainer, which was a really big thing like around 2015. For some reason, everyone got it into their head that like if you want to explain what a product does, the last thing you should do is show the product. You should like have like a jolly little man walking around a town and then like, have these kind of icons animate in and out of the screen. Do not make animated explainers. The best way to show the product and explain what the product does is just get one of your team to record a Loom, which I think is £12 a month.
Yeah.
It's so cheap and it works so much better. And again, because it's slightly lo-fi, it feels raw. It feels real, and people will forgive the person presenting the odd the odd ah. It doesn't need to be scripted. It can be imperfect because that's the nature of those videos. So they feel kind of informal and improvised. So I'm really bullish on two types of video content. The first is what you described, the kind of the one that feels like user-generated content. People just recording what they're doing on a phone between meetings, just creating content on the fly. I just think it's really immediate. And then Looms.
Yeah.
And, other kind of like screen recording style videos, which are just great for showing off the product. If you want a slightly higher production value version of Loom, there's a great app that I use occasionally called Screen Studio, which it does a similar thing, but you can like zoom in on specific parts of the screen, zoom back out. It sets up the shot in a much more attractive way than Loom or Vidyard do. So that's quite good for content creation if you want to find that middle ground. But yeah, definitely don't spend like $3-4 grand on an animated explainer in which you never get to see the product because it's just a colossal waste of your budget.
Yeah. Or even worse, do you remember there was a phase a while ago where it was like the hand drawing whiteboard?
Yes.
Like little videos that
everywhere.
were really cheap to produce. I think they're probably done by AI now.
Yeah.
But that was everywhere. So yeah, maybe avoid that as well.
Yeah.
And so questions to you from a creative standpoint when it comes to videos. What about the length of the video in terms of there's been a lot of talk recently about like TikTok style videos, really short, snappy videos, quick cuts, quick shots. Or there's more of the long form content, which is, I guess, similar to what this is, and podcasts and YouTube videos. Where do you think LinkedIn sits on that spectrum, or what can work well in the feed on LinkedIn?
I would say it comes down to what your goals are. Always with content. It's like, what are you trying to do and why? I would say, generally speaking, this is a long form piece of content that's going to live in YouTube. We are going to make short form edits for social. And that distinction is important. If you just take like a 30-minute long video and stick it on LinkedIn, it's going to be in the news feed, which is like an extremely competitive information space. It's going to be really hard to hold on to someone's attention for that long in the news feed, whereas it will be easier on a platform in a context where that's what people are going there for, if that makes sense. So that's the first thing not to do. We have clients sometimes send us the entire version of their webinar and say, can we put this on LinkedIn? It makes no sense. But what does make sense is to chop it up and take out the best bits. In terms of creating content for LinkedIn's newsfeed, I would say, for me, I do like 30 to 90 seconds. I wouldn't go that far over that. That's not to say that if you do that, it will fail massively. It's just that I think that it forces you to make decisions about the edit, because you need to be really intentional with video content. You need to be intentional with all content, but I think with video specifically, because it's so easy to lose people. So like a really powerful hook in the first 3 seconds that's just going to get someone to stop scrolling ultimately and watch. From there, I read a fascinating piece recently that said there's another hook that you need at around 7 to 10 seconds. So that first 3 seconds is stop and scroll. 7 to 10 is, shall I watch the rest of this video? And that's like, you need to quickly sum up the value of sticking around. And from there, you just need to make sure that every 10 or 15 seconds, like, it's worth sticking around for.
Yeah.
And I think that if you aim for a shorter video, you're going to be more likely to be really decisive and really intentional. Yeah. Whereas if it's like you're putting out something that's 4 minutes long, you might hold on to people. That's not to say that everyone's just going to tune out just because they see it's a long video. But I think you're more likely to leave in stuff that doesn't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you've got more time to fill.
Yeah.
That said, we run some video ads for clients and they're 2.5 minutes and they work just fine. But I think it is worth, like, when you're editing the video, being really intentional about how you're holding on to people's attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is interesting. For me, I think mainly you want those short, sharp videos, but you can have a blend.
Yeah.
Because if the content is good enough, people do have long attention spans.
Yeah.
Because they do watch 20-minute videos, I think is the average maybe on YouTube. So they do have that attention span, but the content needs to be good enough. I think an interesting consideration here as well is the fastest growing demographic on LinkedIn is Gen Z.
Yeah.
And that is a generation that is more used to these TikTok style videos, these kind of short, sharp videos.
Yes.
And I think that we need to keep that in mind when we're creating content for the feed as well.
Yeah. We should do an episode on Gen Z and LinkedIn. I think that would be a really fun one.
Yeah.
Because they're definitely changing the vibe. The kind of much more informal, jokey, memey tone of voice you're seeing come through, I think is definitely being driven by that new demographic. But yeah, as you say, the quality of the content is the most important factor.
Yeah.
If it is rubbish, it doesn't matter if it's 11 seconds long. You're still going to lose people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If it's amazing and you are dropping value constantly, it could be 4 or 5 minutes long. Why not? Like, if you're still solving people's problems, and as you say, it's good to have a mix. I think that, and this is my point at the start about being intentional, there are pieces of content which are there for just a quick connection, right? It's kind of silly, it's funny, it's quick to consume, or it's just tactical. It's just did you know this?
Yeah.
Go try that. And that's fine. And those things can be short. But if you want to tell a broader story or a deeper story or go into more detail, build more trust, then it needs to be longer.
Yeah.
And maybe you make peace with the fact that, as it gets longer, your view through rate is going to probably get shorter. And that's okay in some cases.
Yeah. And it's interesting because LinkedIn are launching soon their new brand shows on LinkedIn. I think they might have released a couple and it's kind of a slow rollout.
Yeah.
But this is where you've got well-known creators like Stephen Bartlett who will be creating videos on LinkedIn, and it's longer form content that people can go on the platform and watch.
Wow.
And I wonder whether that's going to help with longer form content kind of doing better on the platform, and people will be more used to going to the platform to watch those sort of videos.
Yes.
From an ads perspective, what advertisers can then buy is ad slots at the start of that video. And then that means that you can associate your brand with that creator. So you can kind of pass on their affiliations, similar to if you were sponsoring a podcast.
Yeah.
So that's something that LinkedIn are launching soon as well.
Are they going to be producing it?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Because some of the worst video content I've ever seen on LinkedIn is from LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. It's just, I mean, LinkedIn is a big corporate business. And so as you'd expect, it's pretty corporate. It's pretty old school. I've seen some ones more recently where they're kind of a bit more informal and doing things like we've been talking about in this video, but it used to be, you know, a very formal shoot with someone obviously reading a script. Often talking about how great video content is on LinkedIn while making really quite odd video content.
Yeah. With video content, just from an ads perspective, why we really like it.
Yeah.
And we really like it because it does get good engagement on the platform. It's a great way to deliver your message, but also it's a brilliant way to build up retargeting audiences, which are very important on the platform. That's where most of your conversions will come from. So what you can do on LinkedIn is you can build a retargeting audience based on if someone has watched 25%, 50%, 75%, or I think it's 90% of your video. And then you can target those retargeting audiences with other ads that might be further down the funnel, like social proof ads or call to action ads or inviting them to an event. So I think they do work really well as an ad format, more towards the top of the funnel to build up those retargeting audiences quicker and cheaper than some other ad formats. To help you to capture demand from the channel as well when you're seeing those signals of intent by people watching a good proportion of a video.
Yeah. It's worth as well mentioning thought leader video ads.
Yes.
Like incredibly high performing, like really, really good. The combination of video content and thought leader ads is like really, really strong. I mean, we know a few people in our space. AJ, that's like the backbone of his strategy right now, isn't it? Thought leader video ads, I think you said. And certainly we're running them for ourselves and for our clients, and it works really well. Yeah, in terms of the campaign, I think they work really well at the top of the funnel. Like if you're going for that kind of awareness level campaign, video absolutely needs to be a part in there. And I think in the past, it would be maybe like 5 to 10% of the ads might be video. But I think going forward, it needs to be a much more balanced mix.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly for ourselves, which is the only account where we really have like absolute control over what it's possible to create, because we control our own budget in terms of, you know, Winbox's ad strategy. You know, we prioritize video really just because we see the results. It's just like really, really high performing ad campaign, which I guess just comes back to what we were talking about at the show, which is LinkedIn's prioritizing video. It wants to see itself as a video first platform because video has the best retention. I think it's interesting what you were saying about as well. You know, you can look at what a lot of LinkedIn is doing right now and the changes they're making to the algorithm with regards to, you know, relevance is now more important than recency. So, you know, what you post is much more important than how often you post. And then moving towards video and away from just text and image. And you mentioned this kind of creator, what was the name of that again?
Brand shows, I think they call it, or brand link.
Yeah. Oh, brand link. Yeah. I have seen them talking about that. Brand link. You know, all of these moves are about user retention, right? And getting people to spend more time on the channel and getting brands to spend more time creating higher quality content.
Yeah.
And stuff that's less kind of throwaway and bite size.
Yeah, and that is the good thing about LinkedIn is they are all about member engagement, and not just all about the ad revenue. And that's because they're very unique to the other platforms in terms of they don't just rely on ad revenue for their revenue. They obviously originally were more of a talent solutions business, and then they've got their sales solution business, and they've got their premium offers. Marketing solutions is just a part of that.
Yeah.
And without good member engagement, all of the rest of that falls down.
Yeah.
So they are genuinely about member engagement, as well as they want to make ads revenue and they want to be as profitable business as they can be. But I think that's why a lot of these new features that they do roll out do have that member engagement at the heart of it.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about creating content for the channel and when you're thinking about ads, that needs to be front and center. Like what is going to be interesting and relevant and is going to really engage our audience and the members on there. Because if you do that, they tend to perform better. Yeah, it's going to be one thing I think will be interesting to see as well. And I guess maybe these changes are part of these efforts is LinkedIn's resistance to becoming another like brain rot channel
Instagram and TikTok, which I really don't use. But when I do go on there, I do see stuff from there. People talk about brain rot. It's just unbelievably low quality video content. And it means nothing. It adds no value. It's just kind of addictive.
Yeah.
And I think, LinkedIn are probably trying to do the absolute opposite of that and trying to make sure that like this isn't noise, this is signal.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get people to create high quality content that actually means something.
Yeah.
It doesn't just get engagement for its own sake.
Do you remember when they rolled out that new feature on the mobile app, which was like the stories feature or like the video reels? And they quite quickly sunlighted that.
Just vanished.
And I think it was because a lot of the videos, I don't know about you, but when I was watching them on there, they weren't relevant to me.
Yes.
And it didn't seem that interesting. It wasn't my connections or people who I follow and those influencers I want to hear from.
Yeah.
It wasn't kind of like expertise from them. It was more so creators that aren't native to LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Trying to get a new audience on there.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether that's part of the reason why they kind of sunlighted that quite quickly and we don't see it anymore.
It was incredibly generic content from people. You could tell they had like a good studio setup. They often look like they were creating, as you said, for like other channels. And they would talk about like 5 things to do in your next interview. Whereas like what people go on LinkedIn for is often really detailed deep dives on what they do for a living.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably where they're trying to get to, which is a good move.
I think it'd be good to talk about how people should approach the channel.
Okay, yeah.
Like now and going into 2026, obviously not too far away. How should people be thinking about LinkedIn as part of their wider marketing ecosystem? And how should they be approaching the channel to get the most from it?
Yes.
One of the biggest problems that I see on LinkedIn is that people approach the channel purely as a lead generation channel.
Yeah.
They see it as a bottom of the funnel demand capture channel. I'm just going to run ads to try and get a demo, or I'm just going to run gated content to try and get leads and MQLs, when that's not what people are on the channel for.
Yeah.
People aren't on the channel to shop. They're not there to buy. They're often much earlier in their buyer journey. They're there to learn something new. They're there to network. They're there to kind of enjoy going through the feed. And I think we need to approach it in that mindset. You need to approach it in the mindset as this channel for us is more about brand awareness and more about demand generation. And the way that we look to approach the channel for ourselves and all of our clients is that the main aim of this channel is to build up mental availability. And that's because in B2B marketing, it's really well known and understood, the 95-5 rule.
Yeah.
Where at any one time, only about 5% of your audience is in market looking to buy. The vast majority of your audience aren't in market looking to buy. So our job as marketers and on LinkedIn is to build up mental availability with that 95%. And that essentially means that when they're in market for a solution like yours, they think of you first.
Yeah.
And in B2B, what tends to happen is the brand that they think of first tends to be, I think it's about 80% of the time, the brand that they end up purchasing.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And I think we need to approach our ads and approach the channel in that way. Is this isn't a lead generation channel. It's not like Google Ads where we're going to get a lot of last touch attribution. It's the best channel we have to build up this mental availability, to hit people early in their buyer journey and to build up trust, so that when they are in market for a solution like ours, which might not happen often, they think of us first. They already know, like, and trust us. And ultimately then hopefully we end up winning the work.
Yeah. It's a really interesting shift. I mean, we've been on this journey for years. It's certainly how we think about marketing for our own business. I mean, that's the object of this show and this podcast, right? Is building up mental availability. I think that so much of the conversation is fascinating because so much of the conversation around marketing that you see on LinkedIn is people telling this story. Some people call it brand building. Some people call it demand generation. But there seems to be this consensus, which is, as you put it, it's all about mental availability and it's about making it into the consideration set. And if you only market to people who are currently in market, you're actually turning up too late because chances are they've probably already decided who they want to buy from before they enter the buying cycle. And yet, right, despite everyone on LinkedIn always saying this, so many times when you actually speak to marketers about their goals and like why they're using LinkedIn or why they're looking for an agency, it comes back to lead gen. And it comes from all kinds of different places. I think it comes from senior pressure.
Yeah.
People just get handed down targets like MQL targets, so they have to try and hit them at least. I think there's a kind of sunk cost fallacy, which is where we've been trying to do lead gen using the classic lead gen playbook for this long. We should continue, because to do something else would be to accept that a lot of that budget has been wasted. I think it's also just like, for a long time, most marketers got their marketing education from vendors, from HubSpot and the like, who said, this is how marketing works. You know, you make a nice ebook and you stick it on a landing page and someone downloads it, you send them 3 emails and they buy your product. Easy peasy. And people genuinely never questioned whether or not these brands were like credible in that advice. When you actually look at decades and decades of research into marketing and what's effective and what's not. And, you know, LinkedIn have contributed to this themselves with the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, the B2B Institute, which partners with them, and like really credible marketers like Byron Sharp and people like that. There's a brilliant white paper actually that linked, I never thought I'd use those two words together, but called How B2B Brands Grow, which is like the B2B version of the book How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp, which is basically, you know, all the stuff that you've just been talking about. And I think like every marketer that's interested in trying to shift from a lead gen to a demand gen or a more brand centric way of thinking about using LinkedIn should read it, because it's really, really good. And it really explains how and why this works. I think the bit that's often missing, and I posted about this literally last week, is we all get the theory, at least most of us do. Not that many people talk about the practice. You know, how do you target the 95% who are out of market? And what does that actually look like in terms of a strategy, right? Like a set of tactics, a content calendar. You know, I've got a few thoughts on that, but maybe you want to go first in terms of like, from a paid media perspective, how you go about building those sorts of campaigns with those sorts of goals.
Yeah, I think a lot of it we touched upon already.
Yeah.
And it's about showing up to be genuinely useful to that audience in the content you produce. And that can be through thought leader ads, like we spoke a lot about. That is then sharing your expertise and your knowledge and helping people and building up that credibility then and that authority in your business. And I think that then the video content you can create, if that can carry on that in terms of building up who you are as a credible authority. And I think for me, that is the key, is content that helps to build that trust.
Yeah.
Because every purchase in B2B is complex and is often high risk and can be massive budget sometimes, that trust is crucial. So that's what I'll be thinking about with with building, with how you're advertising to that 95%, is you want to have messages that are memorable. So you want to have a clear narrative, know who your ICP is, these kind of best practices when it comes to marketing, not just marketing on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you want to repeat that message over and over so they get it. But also you want to showcase your expertise. You want to be genuinely helpful so that they trust you.
Yeah.
And then when they're in market, it should be a no-brainer to come and talk to you first.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that at the outset, it's really useful to set some guiding principles in terms of the strategy, and the simplest way to boil it down, I think a good starting point is, first off, this is zero click in the newsfeed education. So we're not going to be asking people to fill out a form. We're not going to be asking people to click on a link. Whatever engagement happens on whatever we make is happening in the feed, because that forces you to think in a totally different way, which is you're not thinking about website traffic. You're not thinking about form fills. You're just thinking about creating something which is going to work really well in the feed. The next thing, I think you're totally right. If you want somebody to remember something, you need to make that thing really simple. So have a really clear story and tell it in a bunch of different ways over and over and over again. And like, if you are sick to death of saying something or covering something, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think in this play, because it is all about memorability. You know, there's this mindset shift, which I used to talk about quite a lot, which I think is really interesting. Like, great marketers don't think as much about attention. They think about like memory, because memory is the thing that guides buying behavior. You know, if a piece of software costs 80, 100, 200 grand a year, you're not going to do that off the back of, you know, a post that they saw once and decided to click on and go and book a demo.
Yeah.
That's just not how that works. It's like long-term brand impact is what shapes those kind of big buying decisions. And that thing is all about memory. And it's really not that much about attention after just getting their attention with your message. But it's about like, what are the memory structures you're building? A few of the ways you can do that is familiarity. So repeating the same message, but using the same brand assets and using the same faces. So a big part of why I think it's really good that we do this kind of stuff for Winbox is that, it sounds odd, we are distinctive brand assets. To use like the kind of classic marketing jargon from the B2C side of things, which is my background. Your people become distinctive brand assets. They become like sub-brands. Or, if you were to map out all of the brand assets on a page, you'd have your logo, your fonts, your color palettes, your brand visuals, and your people, right? And those people are part of what makes it stick. And then, I think in terms of more tactically, if you were trying to target the 95%, definitely for me, it's more of a thought leader play. Like that's what's building the awareness. And then your kind of brand account is ultimately like retargeting the people that engage and maybe trying, because it's still worth having those conversion campaigns running. They're just not the object of the entire campaign. Yeah. And the brand account is there to kind of, I don't think you'd run like a retargeting campaign to people who are engaging from a thought leader profile. At least I don't really see that very often. It's more of a top of funnel thing, isn't it?
Yeah, more so. I mean, there can be a mix of maybe they've engaged with your thought leader ads, but then also your brand ads as well, or some other signals of intent. I think that going back to why a lot of brands aren't doing this, because I think to do this well, it is a mindset shift.
Yes.
It's a mindset shift from, okay, this isn't lead generation, this is brand awareness, that's how we're going to approach it. So that's the sort of content we're going to create. I think a lot of times why marketers aren't doing this isn't actually their fault. I'm on the marketer side here, as I would be. Yeah. It's they have a lot of pressure for short-term targets from usually their senior executives and the C-suite, which makes it very difficult for them. The conversations we have with them, they say, we kind of know we need to be doing this stuff for long-term success, but I can't. I have a target next month for leads or for MQLs. I need to hit that. So I think to help us to get over that, I think marketers need to have those difficult conversations with the C-suite up front. With, we're looking to invest in this channel, but here is what it's going to do for us. It's not going to immediately drive pipeline, and that's not its main driver. What it's going to do is it's going to help us reach our target audience consistently with our message to build up brand mental availability and to build up brand awareness so that they will come to us when they're in market. And what that means in the long term is we will have outsized progress with what marketing is bringing into the organization in terms of opportunities and in terms of pipeline because of this brand activity that we're doing. And I think if you can have that conversation up front with the CFO, with the CEO, and you get them bought in, then that alleviates then that pressure to default to short-term tactics. You do want some short-term tactics in there to capture the demand that already exists, but the majority of your strategy you want to be building up that mental availability and to be on the awareness side.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I feel for a lot of our clients who are trying to have these conversations internally, because I think that B2B marketing did just get stuck with this playbook a few years ago that I think we're still trying to shake off. I think marketers are doing a better job of doing that. I think one thing that really helps, we have our own measurement framework internally, which is kind of reach, relevance, and engagement equals pipeline. Maybe we can talk about that in more detail in another show. But having a alternative that feels really watertight and methodical and thought through, because what it shouldn't be, the worst version of this pivot from kind of lead gen to demand gen is just, we're not going to measure anything anymore. It's all brand, baby. Let's go. It's crazy. You got to measure something. You need to be like, make peace with what's really hard to measure, which is basically what's going on in people's brains. Be forensic about what it is possible to measure, and treat those things as kind of inferring in a fairly directional way whether things are going right or wrong.
Yeah, and we'll definitely do a whole episode on measurement. Because that is the biggest question that we get asked, and also the biggest issue for a lot of marketers is, how do I justify this spend?
I think it's the biggest issue in the industry. Like if you were to say, like in marketing, especially B2B marketing, what are the points of tension, the things that are unresolved? it would be measurement and attribution. It's fascinating, right? How often conversations in our office just turn into a conversation about measurement and attribution.
Yeah.
No matter what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's so important.
It's so foundational.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be talking about a set of slides that we wrote for a pitch that's coming up and end up having a half-hour long conversation about measurement. It's always in the background. And I think that's because it's probably one of the few areas of marketing where it's not been worked out. No one squared it away.
Yeah. And I think, again, this is why it's important to have those conversations up front about what this channel is going to do. Because otherwise people will just default to last touch attribution.
Yes.
What their CRM can tell them. And we know that last touch can give you some interesting insight into what channel is then capturing that demand. But in B2B, the buying journey is much more than that, and is usually a long tail. I think is an average like 290 days or something like that from first being exposed to your ad or being exposed to your brand to then going on and actually inquiring. So there's a huge journey there, and we can't discount that whole journey and just give credit to that last touch, because if we do, you'll be cutting off what's actually working for you.
Definitely. Right. Should we talk about new features on LinkedIn? There's a couple of things. First off, personalisation on the channel, which, am I right in thinking this is the first proper personalisation on LinkedIn generally? I don't think there was anything before this, was there?
They've had a couple before, obviously, with conversation ads, messaging ads. You can personalise there.
True.
Also with spotlight ads, you can personalise there.
Okay.
But this is the first time that you've got a ad format where you could do personalisation within the feed.
Yes.
So very much ABM within the feed, which is quite exciting.
Nice.
So to start with what it is in terms of new personalisation ads from LinkedIn, you'll see them starting to be rolled out now into your account if you haven't got it already. And it's basically the body copy within the ad. Now you can add personalization tags in there. Mm-hmm. So you can add the first name in there. You can add the job title in there, the company name, so that when people are scrolling through the feed and they see the ad, it will appear more so like it's personalized to them. Mm-hmm. Which I think is quite exciting, because if you think about email marketing and email marketing best practice, it almost has to be personalized. Yeah. You want the email when it comes through, if it doesn't say hi first name, then you're going to know straight away it's not personal to me. It's just generic marketing. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to ignore it and just delete it or mark it as spam, whatever it might be. So I think if some of those same principles can be passed on to LinkedIn in terms of if you recognize your name or your job title or your company within the feed, hopefully that extra personalization could mean that you're more inclined to stop and to scroll, consume the content, maybe increase dwell time, but then ultimately, hopefully, click on or take action on that content as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out in terms of performance. Tests that we've seen so far is that actually they can increase click-through rate. So you can get a higher click-through rate on ads that are personalized against ads that aren't personalized. But they need further testing. They're very new just to see where they fit in and how effective they would be. Mm-hmm. There is obviously the danger that you can overuse them as well. But from a creative standpoint, what's your point of view? Are you excited about this new feature? How do you think it's going to work?
It's going to be interesting. I think that you need to use these things in the right way. I think if a brand was out there and every single ad was, George, read our new report. George, click on this ad. It would just be ridiculous. It's going to make them look bad. So I think that using first name tags, use them sparingly and use them in a way which is really intentional. You know, something I'd be interested to do is, you mentioned email, which is a good way of thinking about personalization. The reason that it feels so right in email is because when you send a normal email, right, when two people email each other, you do start with their name. Yeah. And so the brands are kind of mimicking that behavior, which makes sense. But in ads, there are very few ads out there in the wild which are personalized in that way. But I can imagine it working quite well. There's a type of ad that we run at the bottom of the funnel. You know, those ads where they are a conversion level ad. Yeah. And you're trying to get someone to book a meeting with a salesperson. And if you could say, George, is it worth us booking time to discuss your LinkedIn ads? Like in the ad copy, that could be quite good. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And suddenly it feels like you're sending a message one-to-one to someone in the feed. I think that's a good use of this type of personalization. As I say, if you're just scattergun, we're just going to stick their name at the start of every piece of ad copy, it's not good. I think another way I can think of using it quite quickly is job title personalization. See how other CROs are doing X.
Yeah.
And then you can just have that tag be relevant to lots of other people. Do you know what I mean? So you could say like CROs, sales directors, heads of sales. So no matter what that person calls themselves, that ad is now going to become relevant to them. Because we often do campaigns focused on specific job titles. But as you know from building audiences, there's very little consistency around what people call themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think about a client, they target CFOs. There are so many different names for that role internally, depending on the size of the company. It could be like head of finance, CFO, or whatever. So being able to make that ad copy relevant, no matter what that person calls themselves, I think is interesting.
Yeah.
As you say, with all of these things, you kind of just have to test it and use it in a way that feels sensible.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of warning signs as well with that job title targeting, where we kind of use them sparingly in conversation ads currently, is that job title on LinkedIn is a free-form field.
Yeah.
So people can write whatever they want for their job title. And there's so many different variations for each job title. And LinkedIn doesn't always get it exactly right in terms of what it thinks is your job title against what you actually say it is. So it might not be completely accurate. So you need to keep that in mind. And I also think with the company name as well, the company name as it appears on LinkedIn isn't often how you would use it, say, in conversation.
Yeah.
So a good example of this is us on LinkedIn. We're called Winbox LinkedIn Ads Agency. So if I see our company name in an ad and it's that long and it's the full name, straight away I know that, okay, that's using the personalization tag, and it kind of loses something then.
I see that all the time in email.
Yeah.
Like always, it's always Winbox LinkedIn Ads Agency.
That's it. And then, okay, my data's been scraped from LinkedIn.
Yes.
This has lost a bit of kind of it being genuine now.
Yeah.
You're less likely to engage with it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because we're marketers. We're more attuned to that. But I think that's the other thing I would just watch out for when you're doing this personalization in these new types of ads.
Totally. I do think there is a risk with personalization generally, and it comes in two forms. The first is that, like, personally, I would rather just get an email that says, "Hi, George, here's the offer."
Yeah.
And I don't need them to say, "I see you live in Bristol. I hear the Clifton Suspension Bridge is great this time of year." So it's clearly some really kind of like weird scraping plus generative AI thing where it's like, find the location, find a local landmark. I don't need any of that. Like what the thing that makes it relevant should be the offer.
Yeah.
And if the thing that you're putting in front of that person really matters. And I think the risk with this could be is that we get hung up on personalization tags instead of the thing that like really gets people to click on something or not, which is value. What's in it for me? If you could do both of those things, that's great. I'd say for people using this, don't forget that like this probably accounts for about 20% of the overall value of the offer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like a wrapper.
Yeah. It's not a shortcut to ABM.
Yes.
It's not that, okay, we're using personalization tags now, so this is ABM. It's an enhancer of ABM.
Totally.
Because with ABM on platform on LinkedIn, you want to really understand your audience, what makes them tick, make sure your message and your offer is aligned with that. And personalization will help to deliver that message, but it's not going to be the message. So I think that, you still need to use those best practice and principles when it comes to ABM.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can help enhance the message, but it's not the message. That's exactly it.
That's it. So another new feature that's being released by LinkedIn soon is flexible ads. So I've seen this in beta as well, which is basically where at the moment, when you're running a campaign on LinkedIn, you can only use one ad format within that campaign. Flexible ads, they're going to change it so you can have single image ads and video ads within the same campaign.
Right.
So what this is good for is that currently, if we're working with a fairly tight budget and we have video ads that we want to run and single image ads that we want to run, which we often do, we need to create two separate campaigns.
Yeah.
And that means that we need to split our daily budget between those campaigns, which gives us a smaller daily budget in each campaign, it runs out quicker, has less chance for that individual campaign to get traction. I think what's going to be good about this is now we can run those different ad formats within one campaign, and we can have a higher daily budget then for that campaign. So it gives a better chance for our top performing creative, whether it's video or single image, to get more airtime, to get more engagement, and to be out there more often. So I think that's going to be really good.
Nice.
What was quite unique about it when I had a little play with it the other last week was that in order to run flexible ads, you can't do it as a campaign within an existing campaign group, which I was hoping that you could do. You have to create its own campaign group with its own objective. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to play out when you're executing a full media plan.
Yeah.
And you have lots of different ad formats and different audiences. So that's going to be quite interesting. But I think overall, it's a step in the right direction for being able to use multiple ad formats in one campaign to make sure you've got a higher daily budget per campaign.
Nice. And if people want to find out if this has been rolled out to their ad account, how do they do that?
If you go into LinkedIn Campaign Manager and you click to create a campaign, you should see an additional option now where the option you would see is whether you want to use the classic builder or the accelerator builder. Always say use the classic builder, so you turn off the default settings. But then you have an additional option, which is to use like one campaign or a single campaign, or to use a flexible ads campaign. Then if you click flexible ads campaign, it would trigger you to set up a new campaign group and then lead into setting up that campaign.
Nice. Well, that's almost the end of episode 1 of LinkedIn Ads Insider.
A big moment.
It's a big moment. Should we recap a few of the kind of takeaways for people that want to remember them? I'll get us going. Thought leader ads. You know, we spent quite a lot of time talking about them, and that's because they're really important, I think, right now. And if you're spending money on the channel, especially if you're running ads, you need to be shifting more of your ad spend into thought leader ads and thinking seriously about having a proper thought leader ad strategy and not doing things in a way that's just tactical or short term.
Yeah. And one for me would be to approach the channel with the right mindset. This isn't solely a demand capture and a lead generation channel, as a lot of people see it. It's mainly for brand awareness, getting your brand out there, building up that mental availability. And once you have that mindset shift, everything changes in terms of how you approach the channel. And over the long term, you'll get much better, more sustained results.
Nice. We talked about video. And I guess if I had to pull out one thing that's worth remembering from that, it's that budget does not correlate with performance when it comes to video, and simply spending more money on video content can actually have an adverse effect on performance because you just create things that look a lot like marketing, right? Create things that look like content, think like a creator, think low budget. What are low budget or free tools that you can use to tell a story that's really relevant to the customer? And that will stand you in better stead than we need to spend a minimum of 10 grand on a shoot, because often that content doesn't perform so well.
For sure. And final thing is that there's a new ad format, personalization ads. Go out there, try them out, don't overdo them, and still keep with best principles when it comes to ABM, but see how they perform against non-personalized ads in terms of click-through rate, engagement rate, dwell time, see if that enhances your ABM strategies on the channel.
Nice. And, this is the first episode. It's been a lot of fun. If people have any thoughts, feedback, recommendations, obviously they should leave us a comment and probably follow us on LinkedIn as well, right?
Yeah, that's it. And if you've got any topics you want us to cover off when it comes to LinkedIn ads in the future, just let us know. Send us a DM on LinkedIn or comment on this episode when it's released, and we'll make sure we cover it off in the future.
Awesome. Cheers, Mark. That was fun.
Cheers.